This module, rather than advertising your service, then explaining your service and hoping that your prospect decides to spend money on your service, we'll talk about a better way. But first, let's recap what we've learned so far. Number one, sales messages are received by our emotional fight or flight croc brain, which decides whether it's worthy to pass along to our neocortex for higher level processing. Your message must be new, extraordinary, and exciting to pass the test, and it must trigger an emotional response. Second, your prospect reacts to your nonverbal communication at least as much as what you say. Dress for success, feel the confidence of your expertise, take control of the time, focus on the human connection, play hard to get, and be brief. We humans are impatient creatures. Third, incorporate storytelling into your pitch. Start with your passion or what makes your heart sing. Incorporate anecdotes and personal insights which touch on emotions. Include props and demos. Remember the rule of threes and be approachable with humor, appropriate and natural only, as you would in a formal cocktail party conversation. Fourth, when you're giving a workshop or a talk, start with a storyboard of your message and play around with it until it flows well in the most concise way possible. Visual aids should be artfully created, image-rich, and light on words. Consider alternatives to traditional PowerPoint, including foam board posters, whiteboard, flip charts, videos, and props. And now, on to our discussion of the prize and the expert trap. Now, it used to be that companies could get away with mediocre products and services, spend a lot of money on advertising to build their brand, and charge a premium for them. Seth Godin, in his book, includes some great examples of this concept. The book is Free Prize Inside How to Make a Purple Cow. It's another great read, by the way, that I highly recommend that you download. Basically, the company with the biggest advertising budget and the coolest creative back in the old days would win. Now, there was no need to change the product or the service itself, as the differentiation was through advertising. But then something changed. The proliferation of digital media created so much noise that people became tired of being interrupted by a constant stream of advertising. And now, traditional advertising can no longer pay for itself. When Amazon started out, it followed the marketing pattern of traditional service companies and invested in mass market advertising. But then, CEO Jeff Bezos decided to take Amazon's mass media advertising budget and instead put the money into offering free shipping. Now, after the first 12 months, sales were up 37%, and the rest, as the saying goes, is history. Meetup grew to 500,000 users without running an ad. Dr. Bronner's uses cool packaging and great products with a solid eco messaging, but no advertising. The moral of the story, Godin concludes, is that money can't buy attention. Consumers have learned how to ignore you. The best investment for your marketing spend is to invest in improving your service itself. This is great news for small and medium-sized service firms like yourself, with the flexibility to develop something truly remarkable that people will pay extra for. When your service itself has an edge, you'll also have an edge in the market. Now, in my company, we like to call this service your sweet spot. Now, it's that market intersection of a service which responds to the needs that you would like to clone in a way that differentiates you from your competitors, with the potential of repeatable processes that could be created or emphasized in order to support scalability. So, assuming that you've identified your sweet spot and designed your service in a way that's remarkable and will get people talking, in most cases, you'll need to pitch or explain it to prospects. Now, another great book that I recommend you download is called The Art of Explanation by Lee Lefevre. In it, Lefevre refers to the trap of being an intelligent expert. When you've spent years honing your expertise in your area of specialty, you not only know the lingo, but you may be accustomed to interacting with others in your field where your natural tendency is to impress them with your command of the subject through expert language. In fact, this expert language is perfectly appropriate on the job with your colleagues and allows you to work most efficiently. Now imagine if each time an ER nurse discovered a patient not breathing and in cardiac arrest, she needed to call to her colleagues and help her to resuscitate, and all of that yelling over the loudspeaker as opposed to just yelling, "Code Blue, room 1." Now, let's assume that you use your expertise to launch a service practice. If people are paying for your services, you should sound impressive, right? Sticking with the medical example, if WebMD had launched using the same language found in medical journals references, how many people do you think would actually use it to look up their symptoms? Hopefully you answered with a very small number. The bottom line is that when people don't understand you, they will ignore your message. If they can't repeat what makes you remarkable, then they can't recommend you to friends. And you may already be talking over their heads without realizing it. Why? Because most people aren't crazy about confrontation, so when asked what they think, they'll simply be polite. But there's an interesting factor which often leads services businesses astray, and that is the circle of early adopters. Assuming that you've designed a very cool service, it's entirely possible that your earliest clients also speak your language. This happens a lot with technology where lingo is highly prevalent. Many years ago, I worked for a consulting firm who implemented integrated solutions using a decision analytics engine. Now, stick with me on this one. It was truly leading edge stuff at the time, as it could be called from any workflow application to design decision strategies using decision tree rules and statistical models, and it was able to incorporate test optimization to select the strategy with the highest probability of success. Did you get that? Now, if you're a techie, then probably yes. But for everyone else, despite your high intelligence, possibly not. Did you find yourself tuning out partway through that explanation? Probably yes. So let's try again. Many years ago, I worked for a consulting firm who helped clients to work more efficiently by using software to not only automate decisions that previously required humans, but to make better decisions as well. They often used our solutions to test which advertising campaign led to the highest financial return, as well as whether to suspend your phone service if you missed a payment. See the difference? Now, I can tell you that our early clients, the statisticians in the marketing and credit departments, would hear us pitch the solution and become very excited about the possibilities. But as we grew, later pitches often resulted in that glazed over look that happens when someone has tuned out because they just don't understand. It took us a while to figure out how to explain why what we did was so cool to audiences who did not have a grasp of statistics and business process workflows. As a service provider, you may know all of the complex language surrounding your service, but if you use it, you'll narrow your market to the early adopters who speak the same language, and there you will remain stuck. The art of the pitch is to explain what you do in such a way as to make it not only easily understood and relatable, but repeatable to allow a happy client to refer others. Prospects will only be able to see your service as a prize worth winning if they truly understand what you do and why it is remarkable. So, think about the value of what you do. What problem do you solve? How do you improve people's lives? Lefevre offers a set of simple steps. Start by building agreement through context. Here's an example. We can all agree that gas prices are rising, or the web is becoming more social, or Forrester research states that, or childhood diabetes is on the rise, and this is now the first generation of children who may not outlive their parents. Second, provide a context for your pitch. This is the personal, emotional connection to the prospect, the what's in it for me. Now this is key. So more of your hard-earned money is spent on gas, would be the example that follows up to that first statement. Third, describe how your service addresses the contextual issue. Example, our new suburban bus service not only saves you money, but allows you to multitask and be more efficient as well. Sally found that she was able to spend an hour more per day with her family just by working during her commute. And then fourth, conclude by circling back to the context. So the next time gas prices get you down, remember that you can save money and be more efficient by riding the bus. When describing your service to a prospect, avoid the intelligent expert trap and instead use simple language that will allow them to remain engaged. Begin with an area of agreement. Create a context with an emotional connection, and then describe how your service uniquely solves the problem. But remember, back to what we learned in the first module, you are the prize and not your prospect's money. You have a value proposition. You can solve their problem. You can improve their lives. And as such, you are a busy, successful service provider. Gain agreement through context, address the problem within the context, and then play hard to get. No asking what they think of your service, no hanging around while they debate whether or not they want to move forward. Just simply and politely back away. Explain that your service isn't right for everyone. Only for, and insert here what is appropriate for you. So for example, it's only appropriate for people willing to make a commitment to buy to a lasting lifestyle change, or people ready to truly invest in themselves, or people willing to spend the time to make a difference, etc., etc. And then give them an opening. So an example opening might be, but if you feel that you're really ready to make that kind of commitment, and we determine we're a good fit for one another, then I'm confident that you'll see impressive results. But I only have limited openings this month, so if you really are committed, then we should move forward quickly while packing up your things or explaining that you need to run to make another appointment. Perhaps your inner game with this attitude should be what you really focus on in order to prepare. So manage the setting, the message, and the time, and you will be the prize. And now here's some great examples for breaking out of the expert trap by providing simple explanations for complex products and services. Take a look at Dropbox, Twitter, and OakMonkey. Look at their pitches, consider how complex their products are, and think about how they've positioned their company. It's quite well done. Now, let's work at simplifying away any complexities that you use to describe your service. Here's your next example. First question, what is the number one problem or trend that your service addresses? Think of this on the macro or the forest as opposed to the trees level. So for example, reducing the need for cesarean births in our city, addressing family wellness without drugs. These are the big picture problems that really provide the context for your pitch. And when you're articulating the problem, it should be something to which your target prospects would likely agree if asked. It should really be a no-brainer. So do you know how problem ABC is becoming a bigger issue? It should be something that anyone who hears that would say, oh yes, absolutely. And then the second question to think about is, what is the impact of the problem or trend on your individual prospect? How is it personal for them? What will trigger an emotional response? How can you state the problem in a way that really resonates with them? It needs to be something that they can relate to. So it's the so what micro problem that's connected to that macro problem. Now, if the context is the forest, this is the trees. So what problem do they complain about to their friends and family that's related to that issue? And then thirdly, what is your value proposition? So how specifically does your service address the micro problem that's faced by your prospect? Now remember to keep your language clean and simple. Use words which don't require any expertise in your service area to understand. Think about one of your clients using these words to explain to a friend what you do and why you're special. This will take a little bit of practice, but I encourage you to pause and make some notes and see if you can come up with a simpler way to articulate your pitch. And I'll see you in the next module.